Hello, everybody. Welcome back to What You Don't See, the podcast. Today, we are excited to talk about a really fun topic, and the topic is the ego. If you're a little bit confused as to what that is or what it means, everybody's heard of ego, right? But Ingrid is going to share the definition of ego. So go ahead.
Okay, guys. So the exact definition in psychoanalytic theory means that portion of the human personality which is experienced as the self or I and is in contact with the external world through perception.
Wow. Okay, that's
That's the definition.
Is there a better easier definition?
The
Break it
easiest
down for
way
us. Break it
is
down for
your
us.
sense of personality, identity, or feelings of self-importance.
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 So when somebody says like, oh, they have a big ego, they're like arrogant. They think they're important. They're self-importance.
But I feel it's like
Well,
when you see as yourself as higher and better.
Well, I want to take it a little step further than higher and better,
Okay.
because there is that arrogant normal person
Right.
that you're like, oh my God, he's got such a huge, and I say, because I know some people, he's got such a huge
Mostly men.
ego, right?
Yeah.
But there is also a self-ego that you have when it comes to justifying your emotion, right? So taking it a little bit step into yourself. So just like a primal example, because we all have ego. Every one of us has
Everybody
ego.
has
Everybody.
it. Yes.
And so a prime example was there was this conversation that was had, there was a message sent to me, and I was like, frustrated, right? And I was like, I don't know how I want to feel about this. How do I respond? So I have a very good trusting friend to me. He's a guru, and I don't talk very often to this person, but I have a lot of confidence and trust that it's going to go in a good way.
Right.
Because you can share things and it'll go negative right away, and you don't want that, right? So you want it to make sure that you're leading in a positive manner.
Right.
So I called my friend and I said, what do I do? I'm so frustrated. And she said, there's nothing wrong with you being frustrated. There's nothing wrong with you feeling sad. There's nothing wrong with you feeling a little bit of anger right now. It's okay to sit in your emotions. It's okay to feel, Sarah. But do respond. And I was like, but I don't know what to respond, because I don't know how it will say that in a kind way.
Yeah.
Respond. Why do you need to sit in your ego? And I said, I'm not sitting in an ego. I'm just trying. And she's like, no, wait a minute. Not responding is not being kind. Because you're sitting in your emotion. So respond so that person isn't sitting there waiting.
Right.
Otherwise, you're sitting in your ego, which is your own personal emotion.
So by not responding, you were in your ego.
Yes.
Because you were like, this doesn't even deserve a response.
Like, I don't even, like,
stupid.
I don't know how to feel about this comment right now.
Okay.
And so then it's learning, okay, it's okay to feel your emotions, but at least be kind to the person. Even if you're frustrated or mad or upset, you still have to give some sort of response so that the air is not out there waiting, and that person isn't sitting waiting to hear from you, right? Because at the end of the day, things will work itself out. It worked itself out. It's amazing, but it's not sitting in that emotional ego of not responding or being kind in that moment.
Would you all say that, yes, you were in your ego by not responding, but it's still better than responding in a mean way? Because I'm an impulsive person. I'm an Aries. I'm a fire sign.
I'm a fire sign. I'm a Sag.
Oh, okay. So we're both fiery, right?
Yes.
And so my immediate response is to, say something mean back right away, right? Like I just want to, but like to me, it's like, okay, that's me being in my ego. Let me sit back. Let me process the emotion and respond when I'm calm, right?
And that's what I just said, got your message. I'll respond later. Give me some time.
Okay.
Right. And that's
beautiful.
Not
I like
sitting
that.
in ego, right?
Yeah.
That's not sitting in that frustration or that person sitting there waiting. Did she get my message? Did she not get my message? Like what's happening, right? Especially if it's a big project or a big concern.
Right.
And so that was a big learning lesson. And I'm older. So, I mean, you're still learning about those times of sitting in ego. That's what I feel. It's not just the people that are arrogant or that are blatant out there. We have to self-check ourselves.
So what are some tips for getting out of your ego? Because your ego is not your
amigo.
amigo.
Yeah. It's To me, it would be opening your heart and
Okay.
being more aware and compassionate towards others.
Okay.
Rather than just being so self-centered or focused on myself. So another example that I would give is probably when you have like an argument with your partner, and you know, sometimes you want to be
My
the
way.
one that is my way, and I'm the one that's right. And sometimes you have to, like, you know, like fold your hands a little, just be like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I was upset. Like you said, maybe I shouldn't have responded the way I responded. Maybe I should have taken time and responded a little bit more kind, or, you know, I'll talk to you later. I'll respond to this later. But it's also realizing that you could be wrong, you know, that another opinion can also change your perception. Like, you're not always right. That's a thing. That's a way, just being a little bit more humble regarding everything that's going on around you. I think that's
And-
how you.
Yeah, well, I think also being okay to apologize, even
Right.
if it's apologizing first, whether or not you felt it was your fault.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Always do that reach out. I mean, I've done that reach out, and if there's no like with a friend or whatever, I've done that reach out, and the response isn't like in a positive trajectory. Then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna move myself away because I was
Right.
already kind.
Yeah.
I already made the attempt. When that person gets off their ego, then we can have a conversation. We will, right? Same thing with my partner, Marty, and I. We rarely ever argue, and especially when we travel, when we go on vacation together. We've been married now. I don't even know how long, but a long time. And we don't ever argue when we're out and traveling together. And recently, we went on a trip. And again, there was some discussion we had. We hadn't traveled in a long time, since like 6 months. So we hadn't had that closeness, and we love to go together. And we hadn't had that closeness, and we got into a little bit of an argument, like a discussion, right? And then like an hour later, it's like, why are we arguing?
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know. I said, I'm sorry.
Aww.
And he was like, I'm sorry too, babe. Like, let's not be those people. And I was like, that's not us. And we walked in. It was a great time.
That's not us.
I love that. That's not us.
That's not us.
But you're going to have those moments.
Oh, for sure. I think setting aside your ego, your pride.
Your pride, yeah.
Setting aside your pride and your ego, you will see that all of your relationships will get better with your significant other, your friends, your family. And like, when you put aside your pride and your ego, it just takes all this weight off of you. I don't always have to be right.
It also makes you feel so much better. Just like you said, sometimes you have to be the one that reaches out after an argument, after a, you know, misunderstanding, something happened. Like that same thing happened. Miscommunication. That happened between my best friend, or I don't know if she's still my best friend. But yeah, we haven't talked in a really long time because of, you know, BS and here and there. But I did reach out, right? And she never replied. So
But you feel good.
but I feel good because, you know what? I reached out. If you don't want to talk to me
If
anymore,
you're not ready
then
and you're-
like you said, if you're
Balls
still,
in your
if you're
court
still in your
now.
ego,
Yeah.
it's okay. I still love you, you know. But yeah, sometimes you gotta let it, you know, slide by too, and realize that you don't always have to be right. You don't always
you don't
have
always
to.
want to be right.
And you don't always have to be right. Yeah. A person, I always say this, if you know the answer to something, it's like game over, you know?
Yeah.
Because questions open up to possibilities, right? So
Yeah.
why stick just to that perception, to that set of, you know, rules and regulations that you put for yourself in your head? Because in the end, I feel it's like a defense mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he might be right, but in the end, it's like, no, I have that. Like, some people even know they're wrong, you know, but they'll keep arguing, they'll keep at it, you know. It's like their ego, like,
that's ego.
no, like
ego.
you can literally prove things to people, like, no, like I'm just showing
Like
you
science
right
or
here.
math.
It's right here, like the proof is here, and no, you know, that's ego to me, like. Not being able to see other perspectives or other mindsets, or just opening up to the world.
Yeah.
It's just like centered to who you are and your beliefs, and it has to be like this way, or there's no other way.
Right.
That's how I feel.
Right.
I like that you said you don't always want to be right, because if you were always right, then what else do you have to learn?
Exactly. It's
You
like
know
you
what
have
I
the
mean?
answers to
You have the
everything.
answers to the whole universe, right? Like, that's what a
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, what a boring life if you're not expanding
What a
your
snob.
mind.
Yeah.
I think that like a big part of like enjoying life is like questioning things, expanding your mind, changing your viewpoints on different things, meeting people that cause you to change your viewpoints on different things. Like, all of that is
I
like
like doing that.
yeah.
That is, to me, super key, meeting people that make you shift and change.
Who
That's
challenge
why
you.
I think it's so important for you to develop yourself, do leadership training, do leadership, conferences, read different books, read different perspectives,
Yeah, like
because
open
you're
your
always going to
mind.
have an aha moment.
Yeah, every time, even now, like every time we have a podcast gathering, there's something new that I pick up like all the time, So it's good to have friends, opinions,
Different people.
mindsets,
Different groups, different people.
groups.
Like, don't just always be with the same like-minded people who are just going to affirm you. Challenge yourself.
Don't be cliquish.
Don't be cliquish either. I am like very much against like the no new friends mentality, because a lot of people are like, oh, no new friend. I'm like, that is the worst advice or the worst mentality to have. Like, my circle is always growing, and I love meeting new people, getting to know their views, their life, their experiences, the trauma that they've been through, and learning from them. I'm very much I try to be an inclusive person. Like, there's always room for somebody else at my table.
I try
as
to be
long as
inclusive.
they're positive, as long as they're nice, as long as they don't want to hurt anybody, like, we can make space for you. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people, because they want to feel right all the time, they just want to stay with those same few people all the time. And that's when you need to check your ego, right? Like, you're not right about everything. To somebody who's watching, I hate to say it, but you're not right about everything. You know what I mean?
You're not.
You're not right.
We're not right about everything
No.
either.
Right.
And that's why we're doing this podcast, because we're talking about what you don't know, right? Or
What you don't see.
Yeah.
And so those are all things that we all have, these emotions. We all have this frustration. We all sit in ego at some point. If you're sitting in anger, you're sitting in ego. If you're sitting in sadness, you're sitting in ego. If you know what I mean,
Right.
all of those things have to depend on your one emotion. So if you don't sit in those emotions, it doesn't mean you don't feel them. It just means you don't sit in it. You don't live that lifestyle every single day.
I think that the power of meditation or prayer can be super, super helpful in, I don't want to say getting rid of your ego, because you can never get rid of your ego, but checking your ego, controlling yourself. Because like I mentioned, I used to be the type of person, it's like, if you say something to me, I'm going to bark right back, right? Like, I'm not even going to think about it. Yeah. Like, or if you send me an ugly text, like, I will get ugly with
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? I used to be that person. Like,
Oh my God, I used to be that person too.
Yeah.
Especially with customers' reviews.
Oh my goodness!
We need to talk about that's another episode.
That can be sitting in ego too.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
yes. Because you want to be, you're like, what? Like, my food was delicious. What do you mean you didn't
Yeah.
like my magic birria tacos? Like, what the heck, So yeah, it hurts you because you're like, what? Like,
It's all my hard work.
but it's just realizing that it's not for everybody, just like your opinion. It's not going to be.
It's not for everybody.
It's not
This
for
podcast
everybody.
is not going to be
It's
for
not for
everybody.
everybody.
And it's
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to watch it or listen.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
going to do a quick comparison coming from
Okay.
ego and your highest self, right?
Okay. So
ego says, I am opinions, thoughts, and beliefs. Higher self says, I observe my opinions, thoughts, beliefs, then question them. So you're open into questioning. You're opening
to questioning,
possibilities. People are good, bad, right, or wrong. That's ego. People are either good, bad, right, or wrong. Highest self says people are coping in the ways they know how, including me.
Including
also
you.
it's kind of like, don't make it about yourself all the time. Like, I feel people feel that they're always getting attacked, and it's like, girl, we're just, it's just like a comment.
It wasn't had nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Or
even
had
talking about
nothing to
you.
do-
I
Yes,
know.
exactly. And I don't know.
Can I say something here? And I, because a lot of times people will say, "Oh, it was my parents. My parents did that to me. It was
No.
the trauma from my childhood."
That's
we all
victimhood.
have trauma of some sort, right? Somewhere. But you don't want to sit in that. Your parents did the best that they could because that's how they were raised.
Right.
They only know how to raise you based on how they were raised. My father never really said "I love you" when we were growing up because he was never told
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
He was never hugged when he was little. They were 15, 16 kids.
Yeah.
They were forgotten. You know what I mean? And so when it's not that he didn't love us. He gave us love by his action, by providing for us, giving us a home, making sure that we were safe, that taking us to church. That was his way of loving. But it doesn't mean that you sit in ego being like, oh, my father never said I love me.
Everybody has their own love language, my dad was the same way. Like, he was never home, always working. My sisters, they grew up part of their childhood with him, but me, I was like super independent. Like, it was just me alone. but he provided for us. Like, we never lacked anything. There was always food on the table. You know, any shoes we needed, he would he just provided completely for us. So for us, that's like his love language, you know, because he didn't grow up, you know, we grew up like middle class. He was poor, you know, so it has a lot to, you don't know how people grew up. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know
why they treated you that way.
Treated you that way. So don't take it personal. That's another thing. Like, don't take things personal because you just never know what people are going through.
When somebody's always offended about something, they're in their ego.
They're in their ego and they're hurt. They're hurting, you know? So yeah, lots of healing.
Sorry, that was really good. Okay,
continue.
Another one would be, I am right. So highest self says, I have a limited perspective based on my past experiences. So you're not always right. No. You just have a limited perception. Like, how are you even going to know what's coming next if you're just limited to what's, you know, like that tunnel vision in front of you instead of opening up to questioning things or possibilities. Ego says, I compare, compete, and perform for validation. Highest self says, my worth does not need to be proven.
I compare, compete, and perform for validation. And the other one says
highest self says, my worth does not need to be proven.
I like that.
Like, you're not
doing it for anybody else.
You're just go with the flow. You're doing it for you, for nobody else. Like, I guess that means just like not base yourself on other people's opinions, right? Like, do it for yourself, not for, oh, I did this because...
If you want to be kind, be kind. If you want to give, right. But that's it. It ends there. Don't expect that.
Don't expect.
Seeking outward validation and recognition is going to always leave you hungry for something.
For more.
Right? For more. That's
like,
always
what
you're
seeking. Get? How many views did we get? How many?
I used to think about that, and I was like, should I hide my likes? Because you know you can hide your likes, and I'm like, I post what I like. Who cares if anybody else likes it? This is my page. I'm posting what I like. I'm posting what I want to. If I get 5 likes, oh well. It made me happy. You know what I mean? So I don't hide any of my likes or anything like that because I don't care how many people like it. I'm not seeking that outward validation. I'm not saying that
sharing to share.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I have reached like the highest self or anything, but I'm working on myself. Right, you know what I mean? We're all flawed, and I'm always trying to grow, like, spiritually.
And that's the thing. That's not being in your ego, like constantly trying to, you know, learn
better yourself.
Do better yourself, right? And lastly, I am reactive from a space of defensiveness or fear. That's your ego. And higher self says, I can pause, observe, have choice in my response. Pause. What you were talking about earlier, that's exactly what you did. Like, you paused and you observed and you talked to someone for advice, and this person, you know, checked you, calmed you down, and so you responded in a kind way, not the way you maybe wanted it to.
Right, because I wasn't sure of the resolution of it, right? And you don't always have to know the answer, right? And so it's okay, but still be kind. Always let the person know, check in, and that kind of thing. You know, it doesn't mean, you know, nothing to say for the people that I don't answer back. It's because I'm busy. I forget, know, right? Or I answer in my head. You know what I mean?
I know, you answer in your head, or you're like, you thought you sent it, but you didn't send it.
Like, I thought I sent you the email, and I messaged you, and I sent you the email, and you're like, I didn't get an email. I was like, oh, wait, it's in my outbox.
It's in my outbox. But yeah, I think that when you take everything personally, you yourself are in your ego because you have no idea what it is that person is going through. Like, maybe Ingrid just had a really tough day and she sent me a snappy message with no emojis, and I'm like pissed at her, right? And it's like, but it wasn't even personal. She was just in a snappy mood and you know, didn't send emojis.
And also that's why I really always rather talk on the phone, just because you can sense, you can hear people's emotions, and that texting you don't even know. Like, someone can send you a message like that, no emoji, no nothing, and you might be having a good day, but you just get that. It's not even intended to be a negative one, but it affects you, and you're like, ugh, like, why would she do that?
Me, you know? I already know Sarah. Yeah, Sarah's not going to put hearts.
No.
She's not even going to say good morning. She's not even going to say good morning. Okay. She's going to be like, sent you an email.
The most you'll get from us, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I already know Sarah. Like,
Okay, got it, send received.
But you're not a mean person, so I know you're just being you.
Like I'm just like responding.
Yeah.
I responded.
You're responding. You're responding.
I responded.
It was like
So don't let your ego feel that, oh, maybe she's mad. Like, is she mad at me? Like,
no. If it's Sarah, I already know. Because I think yesterday it was just like, sent you an email. And I'm like, good morning. Yeah, but it doesn't bother me. Like, in fact, I kind of like it because
very straight to the point.
Yes.
I like that too.
I like that
Very
too.
I
straight
don't like, hey girl, what's up? And they're like, hey, do you mind like this? You know,
Just tell
like,
me what you
tell
want.
me what you want.
No, my girlfriends will call me. Like if you call me and you never call me, right?
Yeah.
It's rare, and I know you rarely call me. I'm like, what's up?
Yeah.
Like, what do you need?
Get to the point. Yeah.
What do you need?
And it's not that you're being mean or
No.
you don't care.
No, I love you, but I'll tell you I love you after I hang up, right? Like, okay, love you, bye.
Yeah. And I kind of used to be like that, and I've tried to get better at it. So now I send emojis. Like I'm like at the end I'll put an emoji just so that people know I'm not mad at them. But I think people know you well enough, and also I feel like you don't really get mad. Do you?
I don't get mad.
Like you're so even keeled that like we just
I
know.
think I've been through enough that I'm just kind of like, oh, okay.
That's another ego example.
And I'm too busy.
Yes,
Like
you
I
are.
don't have time to sit in like,
Formalities.
That's why when I get like frustrated, I'm like, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why am I upset about this?
Another ego example would be like, I don't get mad, I get even.
Oh,
You know?
that's
super
ego.
ego. That's extreme ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting even is
getting
ego.
even is super ego.
I think that instead of getting mad, you sit in your positivity and you live your life in the best way, and that's revenge enough. You
Is
know what I
road
mean?
rage ego?
I think so, yeah.
It's massive
So,
ego.
because it's sort
massive-
of self-importance.
it's
That
extreme.
like
Yeah, because
I'm important. I need to get to where I'm going.
There's
You know
like
what I mean?
100
Road
exactly,
rage
yeah.
is massive
ego.
Yeah.
100%.
So if you sit in road rage,
Yeah.
you're sitting in ego.
That's
and
a great
something
example.
you need to
And
check yourself on.
you gotta check yourself. Has it happened to you that I'm pretty sure
Everybody
everybody has had
You're gonna
road rage.
honk. You're gonna, like,
Yes.
hey, you almost
and
cut me
then,
off.
And then you pass on when it's like an older lady or something.
Oh, and then you're
you
like,
feel
that
so
could have been my
bad.
dad.
Why would I do that to her? You know, it's like so see, that's your higher self, like being compassionate, being open. So deep down, we're all that higher self, compassionate, loving, kind person. But then your ego
gets in the way.
Yeah.
Like I need to be at this
I need
meeting
to-
in 5 minutes, and you're honking and you're getting all worked up. And for what?
For what?
You know, for what? There's no reason for it. It was a little old lady who, is on her way home from her
Or
doctor's.
maybe it was Sarah, and she was
appointment.
texting on her phone. You know,
or maybe
Excuse me. So we all have ego. If you've experienced road rage, which we all have, you have experienced being in your ego. Work on meditating, on prayer, on all the things that Ingrid said. I'm going to rewatch this so I can listen to it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that today you learned something. And we can't wait to see you on the next episode of What You Don't See.
we still miss you, Magda.
We still miss you. Bye.
Bye.